Pin me. There we go. Does that look okay? Yeah, okay, you can see me and all the mess behind me. All right, so what did I say today was? Oh, today was hamstring activation. Hamstring activation, also we'll get into quad stretching, but right, because that's the opposite, right? So if we're activated through our hamstring, then yeah, the other side gets stretched. So that would be our quad. We spent a lot of time in the past couple of weeks working on quad strength. So I think it's time to spend some time on the other side as well. Okay, let's go ahead and start onto our back. Oh, just take it out. I don't know if it's, I don't have my watch today. I don't know if it's supposed to be hot today over here. Okay, just hug our knees to our chest and rock from side to side, and just to kind of warm up, and using the mat to massage your back as you roll around, and just begin our class this Saturday morning. I don't know about you, but it's kind of cloudy and kind of chilly, and I guess we're already halfway through July, which is pretty crazy to me, but all right. Let's hug our right knee into the chest, extend the left leg out long. And this time, normally we spend a lot of times using our hands to press our shin bone into getting our knee, the thigh bone into the rib cage, the knee into the collarbone, right? But a lot of times we don't talk about, well, could we use our hamstrings, right? So that's our hamstrings active. Usually it's a very passive. Our hamstrings to actively bring get into a smaller ball or compression. And so it takes a lot of thought, or just not a lot of thought, but it just takes thought to remember to activate the hamstrings. So that's today's theme, is can we activate our hamstrings even more? Because those are the ones, if we're not thinking about it, those are the ones that go because we're occupied with something else. So in this position that we do all the time, that we're using our arm strength, can we today find more muscle activation with our hamstrings? And I don't know about you, but I'm squeezing my hamstrings and my obliques have to fire. My right oblique is firing more because I don't know if it's because I'm using my hamstrings more, but I'm using my hamstrings. It's less about the arms pulling in and compressing and more about my hamstrings activating and keeping the knee there. So if we toss our arms overhead and kept the position, what muscles are being used? I can feel my right oblique firing and my hamstrings firing for 3, 2, and 1. And then take the right knee across your body, taking the right arm out to the side. So hopefully that's like a different sensation, a different feeling in your hamstrings. We've been coming back to center and just dropping your right knee out to the side. We're just in recline tree. Tree is going to take a little nap. We're just in recline tree. So allowing just the hip to open up. And then we'll switch to the other side. Extend the right leg out long. And hug the left knee in. And really, so first start with your arm strength, pressing down on the shin, what we normally do, right? Pressing down on the shin, drawing our knee to our collarbone. But this time, can we add more activation of the hamstrings? With more activation of the hamstrings, obviously, I feel my muscles tighten up. And when they tighten up, the knee moves further away. So then it requires more strength to bring the knee down. So if I bring the knee towards my collarbone and then I fire out my hamstrings, I fire out my hamstrings and then use my oblique to draw the knee closer to the collarbone, it's a very different sensation. So now my hands are playing a secondary role, and it's more about my leg strength that's keeping it there. So now you can use both. You can use your hamstring and your arm strength, pressing down on the shin. And can you get deeper? Hamstring and your arm strength pressing down on the shin bone. And can you keep that and then toss the arms overhead and really feel that oblique firing? You're going to feel your hip flexor firing. You're going to feel your hamstrings firing for 3, 2, and 1. Oh, and then take your knee across your body. And then come back to center. Kind of roll out that hip socket joint by circling out the shin bone, and then drop to recline tree. So drop your knee over to the open onto the mat, just to kind of give your allow just the opening in your hip, and see if, over time, I don't know about you, but in the past couple months, I've noticed that my left hip is able to open more, probably from all of the work that we've done. Which is kind of interesting, right? Because it's not like I was working, it's not that we have been working specifically on the hip opening by sitting, and we haven't been doing a lot of butterflies. We haven't been doing, but something is stronger that allows something to be more open. And come back to center, plant the soles of the feet onto the mat, take it as wide as the mat, knees together, and just simply windshield wiper the knees. So drop your knees over to the right and over to the left, just to get some mobility and some circulation and movement in your body this morning. And hug your knees into your chest. And then we're going to take a version of Happy Baby. So go ahead and take normal Happy Baby, looping your fingers around your big toes, stacking your heels over your knees on the outside of the rib cage, really flattening the back. So you're trying to find length. Try to find length in the spine. So you're trying to imprint your spine onto the mat, and you're trying to create the longest, right? The longest spine that you can. Now release the grip and clasp behind the knees and really draw, right? Draw the thigh bones towards your rib cage using different set of muscles. You're going to find your obliques are going to be firing. All right, so we're getting our obliques involved here. Kind of similar to what we did just before, where we're trying to draw the knees closer to the collarbone, and that's really getting our obliques involved. And then finally, bringing your knees, both knees bent, right into a ball, pressing down the shin bones. But can we also activate? What did I say? Can we also activate our?
Mommy would like to see you.
Okay, thank you, Kiona. Thank you. Can we also activate our hamstrings as well? So. So really compressing into a ball, not just from your arm strength, but also from your hamstrings, and then hamstrings of your obliques. So if you use your hamstrings to bring your knee closer to your collarbone, you're going to feel your obliques automatically kick in. And then can you toss the arms overhead? We're in a tuck. We're now in a tuck, right? For 3, 2, and 1. All right. Good morning, Grace. I think we have someone else joining us. Okay. All righty. So we're just warming up here. Today's theme is hamstrings and opening of something. I'll figure that out. Opening of our quad. Tossing the arms overhead. We're going to find ourselves in a tuck position. So let's go ahead and start with, we haven't done this in a while. We haven't found our core in a while. Reaching our arms overhead. And we're going to float our hands and our feet off the mat. We're going to press our low back into the mat first. We're going to press our low back into the mat. We're going to float our feet and our hands off. We're going to scoop and we're going to really wake up the core. Squeezing our toes together. Then just hold for 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then we're going to come into that tuck position. So bring into the tuck, and we're going to squeeze the hamstrings. Hamstrings, hamstrings, and then bring the knees closer to your collarbones. For 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Okay, all right. So let us focus on, so that's our tuck. A lot of muscles are being on, but let's break that down to make sure that our hamstrings are activated. Because when our hamstrings are activated, it activates our obliques activate the core, and then everyone's back is happy. Okay. And then you're really working your core. So really hamstrings, as you know, everything that we do, you end up working on the core anyway. I don't think I've ever taught sit-ups in the 10 years I've ever taught, right? I don't ever taught sit-ups. Okay, so let's start with knees at tabletop. Yeah, knees at tabletop. Step 1, bend the knees. The knees are stacked over the hips, and we're going to squeeze the hamstrings. Squeeze the hamstrings, squeeze the hamstrings, squeeze the hamstrings. Yeah, so release, squeeze the hamstrings. This is the muscle that we always forget in a lot of things. All right, so this is just, we need to bring some awareness to our hamstrings. Squeeze the hamstrings and release back to tabletop. Now we're going to do hamstrings and hip flexors. So that's squeeze the hamstrings and bring the knees and the thigh bones closer to the rib cage by bending these muscles right here in the hip. And that's our hip flexors. So hamstrings first, squeeze, right? Maintain that. So imagine you had a winning lottery ticket in between the back of your calf and the back of your hamstring. You're going to squeeze that and you're going to hold on to that. Okay, so squeeze the winning lottery ticket, hamstrings, now tuck. So bring your knees closer to your collarbone, but do not let go of that winning lottery ticket. Take the hands overhead and float the head and the arms 2 inches off the mat and squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hamstrings, hamstrings, don't lose that winning, don't lose the lottery ticket. Don't lose the ticket for 3, 2, 1, and release. Nice, nice, nice. Right, so we're going to do that again. Hamstrings, hip flexors. A lot of times what happens is when we do our hip flexors, our hamstrings stop working. They let go on vacation. So hamstrings first, then hip flexors, then float. Adding on, can you press your low back into the mat even more? Can you take your abdominal wall and smash it to your spine, which lifts the hip a centimeter off the mat, which engages your core for 3, 2, and 1. Release. And breathe. One more time, and then we will get moving. And we have a new friend, Grace, who I know a few Graces, but I'm wondering if you are a friend of a friend, and welcome. Or maybe you are someone that we do know that whose name you're under is Grace. So either way, welcome. Take your, one more time. So hamstrings first, then hip flexors, and then toss the arms overhead, smash the abdominal wall. So don't forget to engage your hamstrings and your hip flexors, hamstrings and your hip flexors. For 3, 2, and 1, come rock up and seated into all fours. Let's go ahead and get, what is it, Wally? Do you want to go out? Do you want to go out, Wally? Tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky. Swing it way forward, runner's lunge, look up. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky. And close the pose. Inhale. Exhale, swan dive it forward. Inhaling halfway up. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back, high plank. Lower down, knees. Chest, chin, inhaling cobra, roll the shoulders back and down, elbows point back. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Inhaling, left leg comes up towards the sky. Swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. And inhale, coming all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky. And close the pose. Do you want to go outside, Wally? Do you feel left out? Inhale. Exhale, swan dive it forward. Inhaling halfway up, exhale, plant the hands. Step the right foot back, drop the back knee down. Inhale, forward, up and back. So today's theme is about hamstring engagement. So in all of our poses, can we kind of think, can we add a little bit more hamstring? So in here, we are stretching the quad, right? We're lengthening through the hip flexor here. So in our low lunge, can we, the foot, it's an isometric contraction. So that means we're not moving, but can we take our front foot and imagine we're pulling the mat behind us? That's gonna activate the hamstring. So we're in low lunge and we're gonna try to pull the mat behind us with our left foot. Like we're trying to pull it back. And notice how you get more extension, more length out of your right side. And in back bends, we are in a posterior pelvic tilt. So as we're tucking our tailbone like a scaredy dog, like, I don't know if you can't see Wally. Wally's here, he's scared of the rain. He's also scared of the car. He's not a normal dog. He also doesn't like water, he doesn't like baths. And windmill the hand down. Step it back, high plank, or all fours into high plank. Lower down knees, chest, chin. Inhaling up dog or cobra. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back, downward facing dog. Notice if one side feels a little longer than the other. Just a little bit of hamstring activation basically intensifies the opening on the other side. Kind of interesting, huh? Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky, swing away forward, runner's lunge, drop the back knee down. Same thing. So the right foot's in front, forward, up and back. We're opening up through our left hip flexor. But if we add hamstring activation by taking that right foot and pulling it back, we get deeper into our opening. Posterior pelvic tilt, so that's taking the pelvis and tucking it under. That protects our low back and actually gets us deeper into our opening, but our hamstring is active. We're pulling that right foot back and windmill the hands down, pop the back knee off the mat, runner's lunge, look up. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky. And close the pose. Inhale. Exhale and swan dive it forward. Inhaling halfway up. Exhale, plant the hands. Step the left foot back, drop the back knee down. Low lunge, pull the right foot back isometrically. So drag that right foot, that right heel backwards towards your knee. Posterior pelvic tilt. 3, 2, and 1. Windmill the hands down, step it back, high plank, lower down. Inhaling up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back. Downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg comes up towards the sky. Swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Drop the back knee down. Inhale. Forward, up and back. Pull that, drag that left foot back. Tuck the tailbone. Posterior pelvic tilt. We're finding length on the front of the right hip flexor, but we're active through that left foot, kicking the foot behind us for 3, 2, 1. Windmill the hands down, step, pop the back knee off the mat, back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling, all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky. And close the pose. Inhale. Exhale, swan dive it forward. Inhaling halfway up. Exhale, plant the hands, step both feet back. Chaturanga, or knees, chest, chin. Lower down. Inhaling, up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back. Downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Drop the back knee down. Send the hips back so that our right leg is straight and flexing through our right foot for half Hanumanasana. So we are stretching the hamstring. We are stretching the hamstring. So shift the weight forward, come into a low lunge. We're going to open up the shoulders. Sweep the arms forward, up and back. Take the arms into goalpost, right? And then send them back into a V. So I'm sending them like a V, but actually back behind me. Yeah, so goalpost, press the elbows back and send them back into a V to open up through the shoulders. One side's going to be tighter than the other. My right side is tighter than my left side because I'm right-handed. But here, we're using our right foot is still pulling, kicking back, like it's dragging. It's dragging, trying to drag back. And you'll notice how your left quad is firing to counterbalance the right foot dragging. And I don't know about you, but I'm already breaking a sweat because I'm turning on all my muscles. Come neutralize through the spine. Windmill the hands down. Come back into all fours, high plank. Lower down, inhaling up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back, downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg comes up towards the sky. Swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Drop the back knee down. Sweep the arms forward, up and back. Take the arms in goalpost. Press the elbows back behind you. Send your arms back into a V. Pull the left heel back. Active through the hamstring. Active through the hamstring. Notice how your right quad needs to fire. So it's almost like your right leg is being dragged through the mud as you're trying to kick forward, and your left heel is pulling back. Slowly neutralize through the spine. Windmill the hands down, pop the back knee off the mat, back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky, and close the pose. Inhale. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhaling halfway up, exhale, plant the hands, step back, high plank. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhaling up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back. Downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky. Swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Come on up to crescent lunge. Hamstring activation. Pull the right heel back. This is gonna be a little bit tricky, but we're gonna pull the right heel back, active through the what is this? This is the hamstring. This is the hamstring. Interlace the hands behind you, roll the shoulders back and down, open up through the shoulders, reach the knuckles towards the back heel. Stack the left heel over the ball of the foot. Open up through the shoulders. And release. Come forward and fly into warrior three. So straighten the right leg. Reach the left leg back. We're going to take the left hand, finds the left ankle. So we're going to squeeze. We're going to round into, actually, we're going to come into this warrior three tuck. Yeah, so I'm clasping my left hand to the left ankle, and I'm turning on my hamstring on my left side. I'm using my oblique to bring the knee towards the collarbone. I'm slowly going to stand up for that quad stretch. But it's not a passive on the hamstring. It's going to be active on the hamstring to really squeeze the hamstring. That's going to help me open up my quads even more. But instead of it just being a passive hamstring along for the ride, we're going to activate that hamstring for 3, 2, and 1. Release. I'm going to bring the left knee into the chest. This is all hamstring right here. Hamstring. Using your hamstring, and then stack your left ankle onto the right knee for figure 4. Standing figure 4. Sink your hips way back. We're going to open up the outer glutes. For 4, 3, 2, and 1, forward fold in your figure 4. And then send your, let's see. Send your left leg back, land, come into a runner's lunge, plant the hands, step back, high plank, lower down. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga, inhaling up dog, exhale, tuck the toes, press it back, downward facing dog. So there's 2 things we got to do today. Today is really around, right, hamstring activation, which is going to activate your obliques and get them involved. It's also going to open up your quads, but then also we're going to open up our shoulders as well so that we can be prepared for our funky positions today. Inhaling, left leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Come on up to crescent lunge. Interlace the fingers behind you, opposite thumb on top, roll the shoulders back and down. Press the right heel forward over the ball of the foot, reach the knuckles towards the back heel. Posterior pelvic tilt, bend that left knee. Bend that left knee and reach the knuckles behind you. Posterior pelvic tilt for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release, shift the weight forward, fly into warrior 3. So activate through your inner thigh, both inner thighs. Now tuck the right knee in. Use your hamstring to round or to tuck or to bring your thigh bone to your rib cage. Use your hamstring, use your hamstring, use your hamstring. So you're flat back, you're in a tuck on the right side, and now find your quad stretch. Come on up and find your quad stretch. Use your hamstring. So it's not just from your right hand finding your right ankle, but you're also firing up your hamstring to bring your heel closer. And that is going to get you a deeper quad stretch. Tuck, bring your right knee in, just using the hamstring and the oblique. So we did this lying down already, right? So hamstring is squeezing and turning on, and we're bringing our right knee to our collarbone. Figure 4. Standing figure 4. So stacking the right ankle over your left knee. Ooh, getting a nice opening in the outer right hip. The more you bend your left knee, the deeper the stretch. And slowly send the leg back into a runner's lunge. Look up, step it back, high plank. Go down, inhaling up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back. Downward facing dog. Come down onto the knees and come up for camel. So squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. If you want to use a block, you can use a block. Roll the shoulders back and down, squeeze the elbows together. Squeeze the knees together, send the hips forward. Posterior pelvic tilt. Gets you into camel. Remember, lift. And neutralize through the spine.
We're going to do some prana bath, prana opening of our shoulders. So pinkies to forearms. We haven't done this in a while. Pinkies to forearms. Yeah, keep them together as long as you can as you lift the elbows up overhead. And then flip them so that the palms are back to back. All right, so you make a crown and then press the elbows way back. Lengthen, press up, and then swim away. Bring the pinkies and the forearms together. Overhead. Flip. Up and swim away. Pinkies and forearms together. Lift up. Flip and swim away. Pinkies and forearms together. Overhead. Flip and swim away. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do some binds to open this up. Okay. Come back into all fours. Into high plank. Take your vinyasa or not. Inhaling up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes. Press it back. Downward facing dog. Lower knees down and sit it back, child's pose. Okay. Down dog, turbo dog, dolphin. So there's a couple of options. So the goal here is that we're going to open up our shoulders so that we can be in dolphin. And two, we're going to strengthen and find our serratus anterior. So we're going to come back into down dog. And there's a couple of different options depending on where you're at. Just tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. So from here, from down dog, the turbo dog is we're going to hold. Actually, we're just gonna do this progression together, and then wherever it becomes too difficult, then you just stay at whatever that is as we continue. All right, so we're in down dog. We're going to do turbo dog. Turbo dog is bending of the elbows, hovering of the elbows 2 inches above the mat, but the elbows aren't bent out like chicken wings. They are bent straight down right underneath you. So turbo dog, static hold, turbo dog. So we're going to hover hold. This is your serratus. You're going to press into the heel of both hands. You're going to eagle claw the mat. You're going to squeeze your elbows together. You're going to hover hold. You're going to feel your serratus fire up for 4, 3, 2, and 1. And press it back. So let's do that again. Everyone can do that together again. So bend the elbows, squeeze, hold for 4, 3, squeeze. You can feel your serratus. 2 and 1. Straighten the arms back. So now we are going to transition from down dog to dolphin. So if you are where there, so I'll walk it backwards. So from down dog, if you can transition to dolphin in a controlled manner, I mean, everything's controlled, but it is a controlled manner on account of, let's say 3, slowly 2, slowly 1, and then land in dolphin. And then you come back up, right? 3, 2, 1. Now, if you're at the, I just got to thump down, that's okay too. And if you can't get back up and you have to like pick one up and then pick the other, that's okay too. That's where we're at. Or if that's just too much, and you just want to try doing turbo dog here, if holding it is too much, then maybe you come in and out of turbo dog from down dog. So wherever you're at, so if you can, right, we're going to transition from down dog to dolphin on a count of 3. So really slowly, 3, 2, 1, gracefully land in dolphin, just hanging out. And now you just come back out, 3, 2, and 1. And so do like another 2 more rounds of that. Takes a lot. So wherever you're at, and I know that a lot of us made a lot of progress in the last couple months. I mean, even like maybe 4 to 6 months ago, I was like thump, 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 thump. I couldn't figure out how to gracefully come. But Anjali, you're looking awesome. Remember when you couldn't like even like slowly transition to Dolphin? Looking good. How are we doing today? Oh, look at that. That looks good. Let's see. Nice. Look at that slow control. Look at that serratus working. I know it's different, right? Than going to the gym and doing a ton of like bicep curls, and you can like see, you know, the definition in the bicep curls, and you're like, your serratus is getting super strong. It's a little bit harder to see, but you know it's getting stronger. You know it's getting stronger because like transitioning from down dog to Dolphin and Dolphin back up, eccentrically back up to down dog is like, okay, right? All right, awesome. Okay. So where were we? All right, let's come back into down dog. Let's come back into down dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge, back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling, coming all the way back up, folding arms up towards the sky and closing the pose. Inhale. Ooh, those shoulders feel more open. Forward fold. Inhaling halfway up, exhale, plant the hands, step back, high plank. So your serratus is so turned on right now. In high plank, pressing through the heel of the hand, posterior pelvic tilt, lowering down. Inhaling up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes, press it back, downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky. Swing it way forward, runner's lunge. We're going to drop our back heel down for warrior two. So I'm going to flip around so you can see. Warrior two, come on up. Our right knee is bent. Warrior two. So this foot is pulling back, right? To help with that, yeah. Peel your toes, peel your right toes off the mat and pull your heel back. You're going to feel a deeper engagement in your hamstrings. Yeah. So you're going to continue to anchor, internally rotate your left leg, strong and straight. You're going to pull your right heel back, slowly lower the right toes down, but continue to feel that hamstring activation for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Toes in, heels out. Interlace the fingers behind you, roll the shoulders back and down, reach the knuckles towards the floor behind you, squeeze the inner thighs toward each other, bend the knees, wide-legged squat, reach the arms forward. So we're not doing a wide-legged forward fold because that stretches the hamstrings, and we've just been trying to activate our hamstrings. So we're going to keep our knees bent here into this wide-legged squat. Slowly come on up into goddess pose or horse rider stance. Heels in, toes out, hands on the thighs. We're going to twist, drop the right shoulder down and twist over to the left. Now, can you draw the heels towards each other, activating through the hamstrings? And then switch the other side, drop the left shoulder down and twist and pull the heels towards each other because we're activating through the hamstrings. And notice how that just feels different. It should feel different. It should feel different. When we do transverse lunge, bend the left knee, straighten out the right leg. Normally, we're so focused on the right leg and opening the hamstring. We're going to switch the focus to our hamstring of the bent knee. And can you squeeze that hamstring more? Can you squeeze that hamstring more? What's interesting is when you squeeze that hamstring more, this one gets to lengthen more. Funny how that works, right? I don't know why. When you squeeze this left hamstring more, we can go deeper in the opening of this. Really it is hamstring, but it's like more like inner thigh. You get the pectineus when you're doing transverse lunge, more inner thigh than anything. But when you squeeze a hamstring on the side, you get more. Funny how that works. And then lift the hips, shift to the other side. Bending the right knee, focusing on activating through the hamstring of the bent leg. Bent leg, bent leg. And really notice how I can get deeper. I get deeper fold with my rib cage onto my right thigh, squeezing and focusing the hamstring. I'm getting more length on the left side as a result. Squeezing through the hamstrings, squeezing through the hamstrings. And then come back to center into a wide-legged squat. So bend the knees, sink the hips way back, reach the arms forward. Inhale, slowly come on up, we're gonna do triangle pose, so right toes face the front of the mat. We're going to draw the legs together. Yeah, we're gonna feel like the legs are like magnets and they're pulling together. That's gonna activate the legs, but specifically, we're activating the muscles in the back of the legs, the inner thigh, into our triangle pose. So it's going to feel a little different. It's less about how deep I can go touch the ground and twisting. And today it's more about, can I really squeeze the legs together? Notice how much more leg activation we're getting today as we focus on our hamstrings and engaging through our hamstrings. We're going to shift the weight forward into a half moon or Chapasana, half moon with an arc. So we're going to go forward. We're going to connect the left hand to the left ankle. That's going to be a tuck on the left side. So today we're going to focus more on the tuck on the bent neck leg side. So if you need to take a block, you can take a block onto your right hand underneath your right shoulder. Left hand finds the left ankle. And we're focusing on the hamstring and the left side. So we're going to use our hamstring more than our hand to get that tuck on the left side. And notice how much higher you can lift your left knee because you're activating through your hamstring, which gets us more quad opening. For 3, 2, and 1. And release. We're going to come and tuck, tuck, tuck. We're going to find our left knee behind our right ankle. We'll come down for seated twist. But notice in seated twist, both knees are bent. Both knees are bent, that means the hamstring can be more activated. And we don't really think about our hamstring activation when we're in seated twist. But what happens if we activate both hamstrings? Can we get an actual deeper engagement in our twist? I'm pulling my right foot backwards, kind of like pulling the rug backwards, pulling that mat backwards, and compacting myself even more by engaging through both hamstrings, getting a deeper twist. And notice how that activates your right foot, which should be more activated. You're supposed to stomp your right foot onto the mat. But instead of thinking about stomping your right foot, think about right hamstring activation. That's going to get you deeper into your twist. And release, release, release. All right, so we're going to start our funky pose series. Yeah, so we'll start super gentle, super easy, I think. So let's start with the basic tripod. This should be like just basic tripod. Basic tripod, and just kind of notice, just kind of notice like if it's easier to get into or not. All right. Okay, so, all righty. So just basic tripod. Right, so hamstrings
So your tripod may feel a little lighter today. Yeah? Because your hamstrings are active. Your hamstrings are active. Right? Maybe you're just placing tripod in a tuck. And notice how much more compact you can be. Yeah. So that should be pretty easy. So let's try funky tripod, because we kind of mix it up. We gotta mix it up. Okay. Alrighty, so tripod should have felt like, I don't know, like light as a feather. I don't know about you, but it's just like, oh, my legs just brought up. Okay, so forearm down, hand on the other side. So you're actually in like a chaturanga position where your serratus is engaged. Yeah, your serratus is engaged. Wait, your serratus is engaged on one side and your low trap is engaged on the other. And I gotta remember which side is which. So it's not, obviously it's not the same because you're in asymmetric. Yeah, so in alignment, I find it easier when the hand is at the same level of the elbow, and you want to make sure that you're not dumping down onto the forearm side. Yeah. Maybe we should try, yeah, actually let's stop. Yeah. Okay, so right forearm down, left hand down. You've got to tuck your chicken wing in on this side. You put your head down, right? And maybe you just start out in funky dolphin. But really, once you engage your core and you put one knee onto your chaturanga side, should be, you're just stacking. Let's try that and see how you guys do. It just, see, no problem, right? Don't collapse on the shoulder. With the forearm side down, you have to keep pressing down on your forearm and engaging through the back and your low trap. I think it's low trap. Yeah. So the forearm down side is the low trap side. So imagine, all of the back bends, or like, so if on this side you were hunched forward, like your shoulders are shrugged up, like you're kind of hosed, right? So when you're on your forearm side, this right here, the low back, you have to be engaging. This forearm is pressing down. Imagine that the origin, like the fishing line origin, starts here. And it's this low trap that is pulling you back so that it prevents you from doing this. So I'm using these in between the shoulder blade muscles to do that. Okay? So try it again, switch to the other side. You're going to be using your serratus and low trap. You're going to use more of one than the other. Yeah? So forearm down on one side, hand down on the other side, head down. So instead of trying to get up, yeah, that's it. So instead of trying to get up, right, and hop up, secure your shoulder, your base, your shoulders, your serratus. So like before you even come down, roll the shoulders back and down, engage. Your serratus is on. If your hands were here, you're externally rotated. Everything is firing up. Your serratus is fired up. Your low trap muscles are fired up. Your shoulder blade muscles are fired up. Then come down with all of that engagement. And ensure that when you put your forearm down, you aren't shrugging your shoulders down, you're not collapsing. This left elbow
comes in like chaturanga. We don't chaturanga with our elbows out. Hands, head down. Maybe it's your head placement. You know, maybe your head placement isn't far enough forward or where it needs to be, so that when you pop your hips up, you're stacking, right? So maybe you put your head too far forward, because remember, this is a balance. We're stacking our hips over our shoulders, I think, right? Basically, we're stacking upside down, right? It's the same thing when we go into just straight up, just normal tripod. Yeah, there you go. Look at that, Uday. Look at that. So do you feel that? Except for when you kicked your feet, you kicked it backwards. That's why you fell out of it. But did you feel when you were in a tuck, it was so straight? All right. So you need to move your hips. So just before you do that, Anjali, before you do that, so do like that down dog, or do the, back in that, funky down dog position. Now walk the feet closer to your nose. Keep walking your feet, because we got to get your hips over your shoulders. Keep walking a little bit more compressed. Keep walking. There you go. Now try. Now put one knee onto the elbow. There you go. Now squeeze and tuck. Focus on the hamstring. That's it. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. What is that all about? It's called stacking your blocks. Look at that. And that was awesome. That was awesome, right? It's just balance. I mean, not just balance, but you know what I mean? Like, you're literally like maybe a centimeter off. And you know what happens to a building when you're like a centimeter off? It all comes from what? Well, okay, let's not talk about buildings collapsing. But like the Millennial Tower, like it's sinking. Okay, maybe too soon. All right. Okay. Well, you guys did that just fine. So, crow. So crow and funky. So let's just try crow. So your crow should feel different today because your hamstrings are on. And a lot of this is, because we've been, I saw last week, it's like, our hamstrings are on. So just crow. Just do straight up basic crow. Don't think about it. But I think it's going to be a little lighter today. Don't think about it. Just focus on serratus. You're active in your back. External rotation. Your hamstrings are already pretty fired up today. Maybe today is the day for one knee crow, right? So just normal crow. Charlie's like rocking one knee crow with the leg extension coming back on. He's gonna be walking his crow. He's gonna be taking his crow for a walk. Oh, look at that. Look at that hamstring. Now, when you take one knee off, where does the weight go? Does it go backwards? If it goes backwards, then when you take one knee off, instead of focusing on the knee coming off, can you focus on figuring out what the change in balance is? Because when you're in crow, you are balanced. So you know what like the zero line is, right? The balance line, or the zero, right? Like, the little bubble, like the leveler, and you have the bubble and the little thingy, right? You know where that is. You also know that when you take your knee off, the bubble goes the other way, right? It like pulls you backwards. So instead of, yes, the consequence is, yes, your knee's going to come off. But when you're doing that, instead of focusing on finding the balance, can we focus on the bubble? And like, what do I need to do to bring the bubble back into that window? So it's a different kind of awareness where we're really, close your eyes if you have, close your eyes. Actually, you should close your eyes. Close your eyes when you do it and really feel where the bubble is going. And so before it even gets there, what do you have to do with your leveler to keep the bubble in the window, right? Instead of just watching the bubble, oh, look, the bubble's going, right? It's like when the bubble's going, you're adjusting. So can you take that awareness, try that again. And so instead of focusing, hey, I want to get my knee off and I can't maintain it with my strength, it's, can I feel where my balance is? Because you can feel the balance. And that's probably the longest I've ever held my single knee crow, with the intent of adjusting the balance, because it is, the bubble is moving, right? We're in a dynamic balance. So I will stop talking and give you some moments of peace to try that. Uday, your knees on the tricep instead of the outside, more on the tricep. Yeah. What I'm seeing, Anjali, is I can see you adjust your balance. Like, even though you're taking your knee off and you're coming out, I don't know if that's what you're feeling, but I can actually see you actively try to adjust your balance. Is that what you're feeling? Yeah. So that's okay. I mean, that's what we're trying to go for, is I can see you like feeling the balance, instead of like, taking the knee off and hoping that it will balance, right? That's what we do. We take the knee off and we hope that it will balance. So instead of actively like finding that leveler and adjusting. So it's just a different, right? Like, I didn't all of a sudden, I mean, it's not, it wasn't like some like huge strength difference, right? I think a lot of us think like, I'm falling out because I don't have enough strength to hold it. And we have to take our concept of what we think a one knee crow is, and we need to turn it and look at it from a different perspective. Hamstrings, Uday, hamstrings. So go into crow again and really fire up the hamstrings. It's going to change your balance a little bit, but really fire up the hamstrings, really compact. Compact. Yeah, compact. There you go. Compact. Now you're active. Yeah. That feel different? Right? My dance teacher a long time ago told me, like, it's like if you're not, it's like if this balance, right? Like if you take your knee off and you fall, and you take your knee off and you fall, it's like you're trying to win the lottery, right? You're trying to like hope that balance happens, right? Like it's trying to like, you throw a coin and you hope it lands on the edge, which it's not going to do. Versus if you intentionally find the balance, right? Instead of the focus being take the knee off, the intention and the focus is balance. It doesn't matter like what you do, right? You can stick your arm out, stick your leg out, you can do all these crazy poses. But if your sole focus is to find your balance, then your body is learning to balance, right? Regardless of like, right? Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to learn this pose where I stick my arm out and figure out how to balance, or I'm going to stick this leg out in this weird contorted position and learn how to counterbalance that. Instead, if we can switch to, I'm consciously aware of my body and where that bubble is. And no matter what is going around in my body with whatever limbs, wherever they are, I'm solely focused on keeping that bubble in the window. Then it's all the same, right? It's all the same, no matter what you do. So don't think, just do, go to the wall, just try, don't think, can you jump into a tuck? Can you jump into a tuck handstand? Don't think. Your hamstrings are there, your arms are there, your shoulders are open. Can you just, don't think, Just jump. Why is everyone staring at me? Was the not thinking part meant the not? Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Don't just picture the end point. Actually, just focus on just the muscles. What do my shoulders need to do? What does my core need to do? Don't think. There you go. Yep. So find your shoulders. So what happens is if you shrug your shoulders when you put your hands down, you're done. So instead, before you even put your hands down onto the ground, roll your shoulders back and down, engage the serratus, external rotation. Then put your hands down, super engage in your back. So instead of rounding your shoulders, do the opposite. Pull the shoulder blades down your back, which is up towards the sky. Legs together. There you go. That's it, Uday. Yeah. Almost. There you go. You got it. That was new, right, Uday? Like 1 or 2 jumps and, right, it was just like you stacked, right? I mean, for the, it's not until about probably, I don't know, 4 or 6 months ago that, I wasn't able to do this at all, right? Because I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I'm using all the force and power and I still can't get it stacked. And it's like, again, it's a centimeter off. So what happens is, if you are trying to go against gravity and like your hips are back here and you're trying to fling your hips from back here to over here, and you're just using your legs, because that's what we think we're using our legs to power us. And it's like, I can't get my hips over my shoulders from sheer strength. I don't think any of us can do that. Well, I mean, you can with like sheer strength, but I would prefer the easier method, which is the key for me was if my shoulders were in the right place. Because if they're hunched forward, and so for all of our balances or upside down balances, if they're hunched forward, then you're done. Like before, like if you put your hands down and you're going to go into handstand like this, you're done, because you can't access your serratus. It's like you cut the power line. You can't access the serratus and you can't access your upper back. And actually, those are the muscles that are bringing you up. Those are the muscles that are pulling you up. Yeah. So anyway, that was just more of a don't think, do, and maybe you surprise yourself. So I think you surprised. I think Anjali, you got further than I've ever seen you get. So it's still all progress. Okay, funky crow. So crow on one forearm and one hand. Yeah, try that. So one forearm down. So this just forces you to really be like, you cannot basically you cannot have your shoulders shrugged. Like my shoulders cannot be here. I have to enter it in however you need to do it, with your serratus engaged, right? With your lower traps activated, with all of this external rotation, super engaged, no shrugging. I come in here and I'm going to end up doing something of that flavor. And again, I think on Tuesday I was like falling on my face because I'm like, I don't understand what this is. So like the second, or I think it's the second time around, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I know what we're trying to do with our body. So, oh, look at that, Uday, look at that. You're just like popping your leg up and that, what happened? That's awesome, right? Where'd that come from? Now remember, your bent elbow has to be super like chicken wing or an anti-chicken wing. Has to be, I mean, your serratus press into the heel of the hand, the whole forearm is pressed down, and you got to get the shoulder down and wrap these muscles wrapped around. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, look at that. You're doing like one leg crow. What was that? You're doing like one knee crow on funky arms. Right? Like what this does is this forces you to be in a one knee crow. Right? So try the other side. Try the other side. Oh. Right? It's actually not that, I mean, it's just we're finding balance, right? It's not like we're trying to muscle our way through it. We're just trying to find a bit of balance. Yeah, your hips look really good. So instead of focusing on the feet, we have to focus on the foundation of the building, right? Doesn't matter what fancy stuff we have in our building, we gotta really focus on the foundation, and it's just the setup, right? It's just the setup, intentional setup. Roll the shoulders back and down. We cannot shrug our shoulders when we come down. When we come forward to put our hands down, we cannot do this. Roll the shoulders down. This is like rock solid. Serratus turned on, external rotation, whichever funky side goes down. But I am like, it's like if I could pinch your back here to keep this, active, and then come down. And my serratus is on. Right? Okay. If you want, you can go back to the wall and just try a couple hops up to tuck handstand. If not, you can do tuck on your back. Either way, wherever your body, if you're like, I'm done, I've spent enough energy. But the key here is if my shoulders are on, right? So look, my shoulders are over my wrists. And I'm pulling my hips on top of my shoulders instead of using my legs to propel me against gravity, right? And it's funny because this is what I was taught in dance, was it is much easier to push, it is much easier to pull than to push. It is much easier if I pull your hips to the wall than it is if I use your legs to push. So if you, and that's maybe on next week, where we talk, maybe that's what we're gonna do next week. We're gonna do pulling. And so what I mean by that is if you ever took a chair, literally, this is what I paid for my dance lesson and my private dance lessons, if you ever took a chair, you pull it. Like take a chair, well, you can imagine, take a chair and pull it. It's easier to control where the chair goes when you're pulling it, right? Versus if you're trying to push the chair, right? If you're trying to push the chair, you have to move your body around to kind of get it to go where it wants to go. It is much easier to pull a chair than it is to push. And that principle is the same here. It is much easier if I pull my hips. If I pull my hips onto my shoulder, than if I try to push them with the power of my feet against gravity jumping up. And that for me was kind of it was like, okay, a muscle conditioning over time, right? So I know we didn't focus on hip pulling, but today was a lot on just hamstring activation and activation of these muscles that are peripheral. And I think next week we can work on like the hip, the pulling of the hip, because that's a very like odd concept that goes into things like how you get into things like pike. Look at that, Charlie. Awesome. And it's something that you're doing that you don't really realize, because we're doing all of these things that are to our body that are different. So that's awesome. Okay. So so I think, what did we do? So we did all that. We had to cool down. We did a lot of, what did we do a lot of? Okay. So now we did forward folds. Forward folds to counterbalance all the hamstring activation. So we'll just go up to the simple Dandasana. Simple seated Dandasana. Actually take the arms up overhead by the ears. Is really hard to not want to hunch. So we want to sit up nice and tall and actually pull, like if I took your and squeezed your muscles here, that's what you're doing. Yeah, so I mean, this is Dandasana is not an easy pose. You can definitely break a sweat in Dandasana. I'm also doing an anterior pelvic tilt for 3, 2, 1, and release. And now we'll take a more passive approach to Dandasana, but still we don't want to round our back, we want to roll our shoulders down. We want to lift our collarbone forward. So you can probably, right, where our core is more active, you can probably get more compression and lifting. So like we can actually come down without sacrificing the anterior pelvic tilt. Oh, that feels good on my back. I don't know how it feels for you, but like that feels actually really good to get that anterior pelvic tilt and just stretching something. It's stretching something back here. Okay, let's go ahead and take it onto our back. And we will, if you want to do shoulder stand, do shoulder stand. Otherwise, do plow, or any kind of forward folding pose onto our back. Making sure that the weight is not onto your neck, that it is still in between the shoulder blades. Oof. And slowly come on down. You kind of circle out the knees. Take happy baby and straighten your legs. So from here, you want to kick your legs out into a V to really open the hamstrings. So we're counter stretching and counterbalancing. Or we're counterbalancing. all that hamstring work. And maybe take a few moments to kind of open up your V even more with the inner thighs. Rotating your feet outward. And the soles of the feet together. Recline, Badakanasana, butterfly pose. Crossing your right over the left. We're going to drop our knees over to the right. Taking our arms out wide, taking the gaze to the left. So the nice thing about us all being in Zoom, right? Like, so we're going to Idaho in a couple of weeks. So we'll be there for 3 weeks. So but see, we can still have yoga. And coming back to center and switching to the other side. And she's just forcing me to get creative, right? It's called van yoga. It's like you can do yoga, but you have a very narrow space. So what are we going to do? But there's a lot you can do, right? Apparently there's a lot of yoga you can do in your van. So there's literally no excuses at all. Should feel really good on your kind of the back side of your psoas. And coming back to center. And hug your knees into your chest and take the legs and straighten them out. So again, you're on this reclined Dandasana. And when this reclined Dandasana, can you find your anterior pelvic tilt? So forcing your body to think about putting yourself into positions kind of a little differently because you're kind of upside down now. Well, you are upside down. And release. I'm just waiting for the pitter patter of feet. I'm like, when are they coming? And taking your legs out long, tossing the arms up overhead. Give yourself a nice big stretch. Placing your arms down by your side, palms facing up towards the sky, opening your shoulders. Inhaling into the low belly. Exhale. 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 Breathing into the 6 sides of your body, of your torso. So if you imagine that your torso, your lungs, are like a box, like a shoebox.
And we're breathing into the lid and expanding the front of the lung, the front of the chest. Imagine we're inhaling into the back of the ribs, expanding. Imagine you're inhaling into the right rib cage, the side of the right ribs. Inhaling into the side of the left ribs. Inhaling into the bottom of the diaphragm. Inhaling and expanding the lungs by the throat. Slowly rolling over onto one side. Big moment. Slowly pressing yourself up to seated. Rooting your sit bones into the earth. Inhaling, arms up overhead. Clasping palms together, drawing them down to heart center. Bowing forward, namaste.